Marvel Snap is a card game, but it's also based on comic book characters that some of us know and love, and some of us are meeting for the first time. So I, as a big comic book fan and someone who enjoys Marvel Snap, wanted to make a series where I talk about the lore of these characters. These cards you're getting introduced to with a picture and a name and the power that may or may not be a good representation of what they actually do. I'm going to tell you what that character's all about, what stories they're from, and if their ability in Marvel Snap maps nicely to what they actually do in the comics or not. Because what I hope this is I hope that people who play Marvel Snap but don't read Marvel comics that often, you probably have like at least a passing knowledge of who a lot of these characters are, right? Iron Man, the Hulk, Spider-Man, all that stuff. But you are being exposed to these other characters, and you're probably being exposed to this very cool art that's on these cards, and maybe you go, hey, that guy looks pretty cool, that strong guy, what's his deal? I want to make this video so that you can look that character up, learn a little bit about him, and find some comics and start reading them, because the comics are what make all these characters great. It's the reason Marvel Snap and Marvel comics and movies and TV shows and games all exist, and these characters are really interesting, especially the ones that you probably don't think about too much. Because everybody knows Spider-Man and Wolverine, but like, what's the deal with Strong Guy, or Zabu, or Zero, or Typhoid Mary, or some of these other characters that come up a lot but don't make it into the games and shows as often? So I'm gonna tell you. I'm going to do these twice monthly at least, and these are going to be focusing on the new cards that are getting introduced now. I may go back and look at other cards that are particularly interesting or confusing, but for now, I want to look at cards being introduced this month. So January is the Planet Hulk season. If you don't know, Planet Hulk is a very, very popular comic book. It's one of the most popular Hulk stories of my lifetime. It has been adapted into an animated series and also kind of a movie, which we'll get to, and there are 6 new cards being added as part of the Planet Hulk series. I'm going to split the month into 2 groups. The first is characters from Planet Hulk, and the second is characters that are not from Planet Hulk. This is the From Planet Hulk side of the story, which means we are going to look at Skaar, Caiera, and Miek. Next video, we will do Hercules, Grandmaster, and Beta Ray Bill. Alright, so let's start with the story of Planet Hulk. Just very briefly, in a minute or two, what's the story? Basically, Hulk is sent into space as part of a plan implemented by the Illuminati, which is Iron Man, Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, Professor X, Namor, and Black Panther, although those last 3 aren't really part of this story. But those first 4, Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, decide, because the Hulk has been going on a tear recently, they're going to send him into space. They're going to send him to a nice planet where he can just run around and not hurt anybody and have fun. And they do it because they think it's good for him and it's good for the world, because he's the Hulk, he's dangerous. Accidentally, Hulk gets stuck through a wormhole and ends up on a different planet called Skaar. And the planet Skaar is not a beautiful paradise. It is a trash planet, kind of like in the movie, that is ruled by someone named the Red King. So it's the first big difference, not the Grandmaster guy named the Red King. He basically does the same thing. He abducts these superhero characters, has them fight in gladiator matches to distract people from the fact that they don't have any food. The Red King's guys capture the Hulk, and he goes and does gladiator stuff. He meets a couple of characters. I have a list. He meets Korg, Miek, Caiera, character named Lavin, Scree, Elo Coffee, I am making up all these pronunciations, but like, this is what I'm going with. No Name the Brood, and Hero Room. These are all other gladiators that are on Hulk's team. They call themselves the Warbound. They are a group together fighting for survival, trying to figure out what they're going to do. They don't really have a plan. Hulk's like, we got to kill everybody here. We're just going to kill and do what we can to survive and whatever. But then they bump into another captive that they know, the Silver Surfer. He's able to free everyone, and they lead a revolution to destroy the Red King and take over Skaar. Hulk becomes the king of Skaar, and then Skaar is destroyed. Hulk believes that the Illuminati did this on purpose. So he takes his Warbound and they go to Earth, and that's what the World War Hulk story is, which is basically Hulk going and getting revenge on characters like Iron Man and Mr. Fantastic. So that's the story. There's a bunch of other characters that are involved. One thing that's really important is there's a prophecy about the Green Skaar, who is this hero that's going to liberate the people of Skaar or something like that. It doesn't matter. It becomes very clear early on to a couple of characters that this is Hulk. So like, oh, this guy is kind of our messiah, and he's gonna stop the Red King and protect all of us. Also, the Red King, kind of a loser, is able to fight, but mostly in a big giant set of power armor. He's one of those kings who like lets all of his guys do the fighting for him, but he's not like a warrior king like the Hulk will eventually be. So the 3 characters we're gonna focus on in the order that makes the most sense. Let's start with Miek. Miek is the character that was just released. His first appearance was in Incredible Hulk, Volume 3, Issue 92 in 2006. So Meek's deal is basically he's a gladiator on Skaar who joined Hulk's Warbound. He became bloodthirsty during the Warbound's war against the Red King. So Hulk said, like, we gotta kill everybody. We're never gonna stop getting revenge. And Meek's like, hooray, that's awesome. And then eventually when they start kind of being done with all this revenge stuff, Meek's like, you said we were never gonna stop. And Hulk's like, but we do have to stop. And Meek's like, no, we don't. So Meek goes from being sort of an unhinged ally to someone who is gonna cause a problem. Meek can also evolve. He is an insectoid, which means like he starts as a small kind of bug creature and eventually goes through a metamorphosis and becomes giant King Meek, which is a much more formidable Meek who could like conceivably fight, maybe not the Hulk, but like Korg, who is also part of this story. I think it's funny because Korg in Marvel Snap is a character who adds a rock to your deck, which is basically like a card that is bad to have because it just kind of makes your deck, makes it hard to get the cards you want. But Korg is one of those cards that everybody gets. It is not hard to get Korg. He's a big part of a lot of strategies in the game, and yet like Korg as a character in Marvel Comics, very inconsequential, right? He's a big part of this story. He's a Krogan, he's a big rock guy, he's Hulk's best friend on Skaar. And then when he comes to Earth and they do the Incredible Hulk story, he is part of that group. But besides that, he does not have the effect that he has had in the movies. I would say the movies would lead you to believe he is a much more important character in the Hulk and Thor mythos than he usually is in the comics. There are other characters who haven't done anything yet in Hulk and Thor movies, and it's like, those guys should be doing what Korg is doing in this movie. Not to say that I don't like Korg. I also think that the idea that Korg is the character that throws a rock in your deck, like, it's clear that some of these cards they really did think through in like a cool way, and other ones they went, what's the rock guy from Marvel? Let's do Rockslide and Korg are the two cards that add rocks to your deck, even though that should obviously be Richter and Avalanche or something like that, like characters that do throw rocks and also are just, you know, more important characters than Rockslide and Korg. Anyway, so Hulk settles down, decides to rule this planet, and Miek notices that some people are building a bomb that is going to destroy Skaar. And Miek is like, you know what? I could stop them, but also I do want to keep getting revenge. And if this bomb goes off, Hulk will want to get a lot of revenge, and that'll be great for me, so I'm just going to let it happen. And in fact, I'm going to let Hulk think that the Illuminati did this, so then we'll go back to Earth, we'll fight the Illuminati, it'll be terrific. Hulk finds out about this at the end of the World War Hulk event. He throws Miek in prison. Miek breaks out, becomes Queen Miek, and is able to kind of make some babies. It doesn't really go anywhere, and we have not seen Miek since, as far as I can remember. So like Miek has a very, very small amount of comics that he has been in, or she, I guess, whatever we're doing with Miek. His powers are pretty basic. He's a brawler. Like I said, he goes through a metamorphosis. He becomes tougher. He can kind of fly because he's a bug. He has 4 arms, although eventually he will lose one of them in the only cool thing he's ever done, which is when he is getting pinned down by his arm by someone who's fighting. He cuts that arm off, which frees him so he can win the fight. That is objectively pretty cool. He's not incredibly smart. He's able to mind meld with people in some sort of insectoid way I've never been super clear on. And he frequently fights with some sort of bladed weapon. Now that's all true in the comics. In the movies, Miek is a bug creature who has, as Korg describes, knives for hands. That is very important because in Marvel Snap, Miek is a 1 cost 1 power who, after every turn, if you discarded any cards, gains 1 power for each and moves. So he makes move decks work and he makes discard decks work a little bit. He feels like he's more useful as part of a discard deck than part of a move deck because how many move decks also have cards that discard cards? So, you know, he's okay. Why is this power what they've chosen to do with Miek? The complicated answer is Miek does 2 things. He kills people and he gets stronger. In Planet Hulk, Miek encourages Hulk to kill all the Red King's forces as part of Miek's quest for revenge. And then at the end of the story, Hulk's retired and starting a family, but Miek doesn't think Hulk should do anything but kill, so Miek lets Hulk believe his ship was sabotaged by the Illuminati, knowing Hulk will assemble the Warbound, travel to Earth, and do more killing. So Miek likes it when things get discarded or killed. Then he gets more powerful. In Planet Hulk, Miek starts off as the weakest member of the Warbound, but eventually goes through metamorphosis and becomes King Miek, a much stronger warrior. That is the complicated answer. The right answer is that Miek is known for having knives for hands in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you fight with a sword, you are a discard card. Even though in the comics, Miek does not have knives for hands. Yes, he holds a big bladed weapon, but it's not quite the same association. I wouldn't say he's as much of a sword guy as someone like Colleen Wing or Lady Sif. So for the people that don't realize he's that character from the Thor movies, I don't think the discard association is really going to work. But if you know he's the character who has knives for hands, that's why his character is a discard card. Overall, do I think this is an incredibly successful translation from the page to the card? Kind of. I don't think Miek has any really interesting synergies in Snap. He doesn't work particularly well with Hulk. He doesn't work particularly well with Korg. If he had something that maybe, helped to add rocks to deck so that it was like you play Korg and you play Miek in the same hand, that makes a lot of sense. And if maybe he buffed up Hulk in some way, that would also work. But it does feel like they just gave him one of the knife powers, which is a discard power, which comes with a flying ability because his character can fly. So that's all you need to know about Miek. Now let's move to the other member of the Warbound who we haven't really talked about yet, Caiera. Caiera was the first new card outside of the season pass released in the Planet Hulk season. Her name is Caiera the Old Strong. She also appeared in Incredible Hulk Volume 3, Issue 92 in 2006. She's introduced as the Red King's bodyguard. So she is his first in command, like she's protecting him. She's also serving as a field general. She's working for the bad guys. Her name is Caiera the Old Strong because she's part of a race of people from this planet that have a connection to something called the Old Force, which is an energy sort of like the power cosmic that comes from the planet Skaar, that she is able to call on to strengthen herself. She'd also turn her body to rocks. She's a very skilled fighter, and she's like all business, very serious, works for the Red King, isn't thrilled about it, but seems to be fine with it. She starts fighting with Hulk and they immediately flirt a lot, and it's clear that there's something going on here. And then the Red King sends her to fight the Hulk, and while he's doing that, he also sends an army of evil bugs to kill all of them. She realizes that the Red King's a jerk, switches sides, joins Hulk's team. They overthrow the Red King, and then her and Hulk get married. She becomes the Queen of Skaar. She even gets pregnant with Hulk's eventual son. But when the ship exploded and destroyed the planet, Caiera is one of the people who died on Skaar. This made Hulk very upset. It's your classic fridging, like a woman dies to make a man motivated to do something. In this case, it's a little bit more complicated because it's almost like a purposeful fridging, because Miek orchestrated that to trick Hulk into behaving that way. If Hulk didn't react that way, if Hulk was just like, man, something's up, but I gotta figure it out, if he didn't immediately go, I have to kill everybody I've ever known, this all could have been avoided. But either way, Caiera dies. Her spirit gets absorbed back into the planet, and then we'll find out that her unborn son was protected by the planet itself, and then he grows up on Skaar. She, as like a Skaar ghost, is able to talk to him, and eventually when Galactus eats the planet, her soul is completely destroyed. She is Hulk's one true love besides Betsy Ross. He was happy, he was a king, everything was going great, he was gonna have a kid, he was married to someone who wasn't quite like the same way Betsy Ross is a really good match for Bruce Banner. Caiera was a very good match for the Hulk, and this was the Hulk was finally happy, and then she died, and this really does send him over to the edge, and that's when the World War Hulk story starts. Caiera never really did anything else, except there was a What If Planet Hulk issue. The question was, what if instead of Caiera dying on Skaar, Hulk died on Skaar? And then Caiera got revenge, but instead of going back and trying to teach them all a lesson and making them all feel bad, Caiera was just, I'm gonna suck up all the energy from this planet, use all the Old Force, and just go kill all of them. And she goes straight to Earth, blows up Doctor Strange in the Sentry, takes over. It's great. She crushes it. Though if that was the case, we'd all be dead. Okay, so what's her card? Well, she's a 3-cost, 4 power. Her ongoing ability is your 1 and your 6-cost cards cannot be destroyed. Why is this her power? I guess there's 3 reasons that I could go with. I think 1 is the best one, but here's my guess. The first one is she's a bodyguard for obviously Hulk, she protects Hulk. He's a 6-cost card, so obviously she protects him. And then the Red King, who's her original person that she's protecting, isn't very strong. I would say he could be a 1-cost card in Snap, meaning he's not nearly as big of a deal as a character like the Hulk. In the mech suit, he's able to fight the Hulk, but even then, he really can't stand up to him. So she protects the very strong and the very weak. That's 1 and that's 6. That makes sense, right? You could also say maybe it's because she protects Hulk and also Hulk's son Skaar, and by protecting him, I mean because she is one with the planet Skaar, she's able to use the cocoon to protect him while she does die. He is a baby at that point, so little guy, that's a 1 power, 6 cost, it's the Hulk, 1 and 6, that kind of works. I think the real answer is she's part of the Warbound and she protects the Warbound. There are only 3 members of the Warbound in Marvel Snap right now: Hulk, Miek, and Korg. Hulk is a 6 cost, Miek and Korg are both 1 costs. So if you, for some reason, decided to put together a deck that had Hulk, Korg, Miek, and Caiera in it, and all those 3 guys were on the field, if she's on the field, they are all protected. This would be a horrible deck. I'm sure there's like some really strange way, like a workaround that would make this deck playable, but like there's no synergy between these characters. There's just, it doesn't work. But I think that's why she protects 1s and 6s. She protects Korg and Miek and Hulk and Skaar eventually. So overall, I think Caiera is an excellent translation from comic to card. They took characters she's related to, Hulk, Korg, Miek, Skaar, and gave her a power that protects all of them because she would protect those characters in the comics. There's really not too much else to her. I think it's a nice simple card. Last one, the season pass card for January. Skaar, the son of the Hulk. He showed up for the first time kind of in that What If book, although not really, because that's not the same Skaar we see. In reality, the first appearance of the Skaar from the Marvel 616 continuity comes at the end of Planet Hulk 5, where this figure kind of rises from the ashes of Skaar, and we realize this is Skaar. Now, I realize right now I'm going to say the words Skaar and Skaar a lot. Skaar is the name of the planet, Skaar is the name of the kid. Basically, his deal was he was born on Skaar in a time of kind of political turmoil, because obviously this is after this big explosion killed the queen and the Hulk took all the big warriors and left. A bad guy named Axe Boneman is able to reconsolidate power. So Skaar goes on his like first quest as an adolescent Hulk to stop Axe Boneman. Once he wins that fight, he follows Hulk to Earth because he wants to get revenge on the Hulk, because he hates the Hulk. He's like, look at all the terrible things that Warbound Hulk did to this planet. He eventually meets Hulk and meets Bruce Banner and realizes, oh, there's more to this guy than just being the Hulk. He's also this Bruce Banner guy. He's not a full-on monster like I kind of expected, so I don't think I can really kill him yet. I'm just gonna kind of hang out with him for a little bit. Skaar was for a while part of the Dark Avengers, although he was eventually revealed to be a double agent. He was also part of a team of the Incredible Hulks, which was also called and made a cartoon called The Agents of Smash, which was Hulk, She-Hulk, Red She-Hulk sometimes, Skaar, and A-Bomb, which was Rick Jones in Abomination form. Personality-wise, Skaar is like the barbarian child of Thor. He's like Conan the Barbarian, wears a lot of loincloths, got a big sword, long hair, tattoos. He's very aggressive, he wants lots of revenge, he's dangerous, and like he grew up without a father, so he's got a lot of daddy issues. Really reminds me of a character you may recognize from Season Past's Past called Dakin, who is Wolverine's version of this, which is like the vengeful son who didn't really know his dad and tries to get revenge and turns out to be a good guy, kind of an anti-hero, whatever. Skaar is in the Marvel Universe as some kid with a bun who was from Skaar, but just kind of stands around at the very end of She-Hulk. I think it's going to be a while before we see that character again, but he does not seem like he's got quite the edge that you would expect from Skaar. As far as power level, Skaar's not as strong as Hulk, but he's up there. Like, Hulk is the strongest one there is. So the fact that he's not as strong as Hulk isn't saying a lot, but like, he's able to fight with the Hulk. He also inherited the old Force energy from his mom, Caiera, so he can manipulate the ground and rock and earth and planets and stuff like that. So he can like suck up all the energy from the tectonic plates and do a big punch. That's pretty cool. He's fought pretty much all the big, strong brawler characters in Marvel Comics, and he's still alive, so that's pretty good. Overall, I wouldn't say he's an incredibly consequential figure either. There was this generation where we were just getting a lot of characters like Skaar and Dakin, and none of them really managed to stick around as much as you would expect. It's kind of the only one that did this properly was kind of Damian Wayne, but he really had to, like, you had to get the best writer in all comics to make this character work, and even then he didn't really fully work until after they were able to mess around with him a little bit and kind of pair him up with some different characters that he was able to work better with. In Marvel Snap, Skaar is a 6 cost, 11 power. He costs 2 less for each of your cards that has 10 or more power. Why is this? It's very simple. Skaar is a part of Hulk stories. Now, there are only really 2 cards right now that exist in Marvel Snap that are like full Hulk allies. You have Hulk, obviously, and She-Hulk. In the future, I imagine they'll make a Red Hulk, probably to dovetail with the Captain America movie, maybe an A-Bomb character. And if those are also 10 cost cards, then it makes sense, right? If you have a bunch of 10 cost cards out there, if you have a Hulk and you have a She-Hulk, now getting Skaar in there is very easy. He fits very well into a deck with a lot of these other really powerful characters. He's right in the middle between Hulk and She-Hulk in terms of raw power level, not as strong as Hulk, but stronger than She-Hulk at 11 power. As far as the translation from comic to card, I think Skaar is fine. Again, he is not a character I'm incredibly invested in. I think some of the stories with him are fun, but there's not that much to him. But I don't think you need to come up with an incredibly clever power for this card to have. All he really needs to do is work well with Hulk, She-Hulk, and whatever other Hulk allies get introduced later in the game. So those are 3 of the 6 cards from the January 2024 Battle Pass Planet Hulk. I'm going to do the other 3 characters, Hercules, Grandmaster, and Beta Ray Bill. 3 characters I like way more than any of those 3. and I'll talk about how they're kind of tangentially related to Planet Hulk or World War Hulk stories. As far as reading recommendations are concerned, this is a very easy one. Read the Planet Hulk book. It's pretty easy to get your hands on considering it's the most popular Hulk story of my lifetime, probably. It took place over the course of Incredible Hulk 92 to 105. It's written by Greg Pak, penciled by Carlo Pagulayan and Andrew Lopresti, inked by Jeffrey Hewitt, letters by Randy Gentle and Joe Caramanga, and colors by Chris Sotomayor. You can find it on the Marvel Comics app or in stores. I will say, it's a very fun read. It's a quicker read than you would expect, which I guess is true of most Hulk comics, because a lot of the Hulk comics aren't the Hulk giving big speeches or tons of exposition. A lot of it's just Hulk doing a big cool punch, and the characters really do hold up. I think Caiera is a really fun character. It's a bummer that she's dead. And I think Korg and some of the other members of the Warbound, besides Miek, all do manage to endear themselves to you. Like, I forget the name, but there's like a little robot friend who flies the plane, and I do think the Silver Surfer's appearance in this book is fun. Like, I understand why, and we'll get into it more next week, this was never adapted as a movie. It has to do with the rights to the Hulk and what solo movies and T-movies the Hulk can be in the MCU. They couldn't make a Planet Hulk movie. It really is a shame, because reading this book, it reads like a movie. And all of the changes they made, I think, are okay, but I don't think really make it that much better. I think the biggest difference between Planet Hulk and the Planet Hulk storyline in Thor Ragnarok is the character at the center. Thor, at this point in the MCU, is kind of silly. He's a hero, and he does what heroes do. Whereas Hulk is just angry, and he is there to kill people and get revenge. And over the course of this story, he changes, and he meets these characters that teach him some things. It's great. I cannot recommend it enough. As far as Skaar goes, Skaar had a bunch of solo runs. Like I said, he was in the Dark Avengers, he was in the Incredible Hulk's run. He's really not a humongous part of Planet Hulk or World War Hulk. Planet Hulk will be a good introduction to Miek and Caiera. If you want an introduction to Skaar, probably want to do Skaar, Son of Hulk, which is sort of a companion book to Planet Hulk. It's the story of Skaar on Skaar for the first time. Written also by Greg Pak, with pencils by Ron Garney, ink by Jeffrey Hewitt, colors by Paul Mounts, letters by Todd Klein and Joe Caramanga, and a cover by Carlo Pagulayan. So thank you so much for watching this. This is the first one of these. I will figure out more format stuff as we go. This is a very, very simple introduction to the characters based on the cards from Planet Hulk: Caiera, Miek, and Skaar. I've been Nando, and I hope I see you back here soon.